Alright, welcome back to another episode of the No Summoning Challenge. In this episode, we finally break the Saber Altar curse, start the grind for Yamamoto, run through a huge chunk of Worldlines, and solo the Cid Raid. But not before finally obtaining Vergil and rolling an insane trait on him. Let's get right into it. So the curse is finally broken after, 150, 160 attempts. We finally have Saber Altar. No, you don't need an actual Evo Saber, all you need is the seal. Anyway, the reason that I got her wasn't actually to add another DPS unit, it was actually because of the passive. She'll be very good for being a little bit of a support in pretty much any stage, and she's immune to status effects and debuffs, so she could be very helpful in the Dragon Ball stages. Regardless of that, we are just gonna shoot for a marksman. We're not gonna shoot for any levels, no nothing, just marksman. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we're happy with that. We're very happy with that. The highlight, however, of this specific moment is that we are now level 50. As you can see, we have quite a few rerolls to claim, but the most important thing, Mr. Top DPS, aside from Sungjinu, Vergil. This guy's going to be an amazing unit to use, even without someone who can help him stun. Yes, that brings out the most of his DPS, but he is still super insane without a stunner. We did say the rerolls would be going towards this guy, so can we get that Monarch?
Wow, thy branches mix with mine. And our roots together join.
Okay, I had to take quite the break there. This is so unbelievable. Genuinely insane. Oh my god, what a great clickbait this is gonna be. In case it's not clear, this opens up the entire game for us. We can do portals, we can do the raid, we can do boo, we can do literally everything. We can definitely beat Worldlines with just this guy. I have no doubt about it. And the best part is he takes no kills, so having Monarch pre-Evo is not a detriment. Vergil is just my goat. He's just my goat. I got Monarch on him in 30 rerolls on my main. It was so unbelievable. It was such a lucky day that day. But yeah, I love using him on my main, so this is gonna be so much fun. Let's get these stats on him. I have a bunch of chips, and I think there's places I can buy some more. So we're gonna shoot for Z+ all across the board. Ooh! Okay. Let's go get some more chips. Yes! Oh, hang on, I need to buy some gold. No! I'm sorry, but I have to roll it off. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Ugh, it's so bad. No, man. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It was fate. It's fine. It was fate. It's fine. Yes! Oh my gosh, yes, dude. How many chips was that? Took so many. I don't want to hear a single criticism about the 0% potential rolls, okay? I don't want to hear a single one. I'm not open to it. Don't anybody tell me that I'm wrong. Okay, well, just like that, we have a perfect Vergil, Z+ across the board, Monarch, all in a day's work, I guess. Only thing that's left is getting him his levels, but it does not matter. This is such a crazy moment. This is the new team as of now. I'm sorry, Troy, I had to drop him. He is very fun, but there's a lot of situations in which I simply just can't use him. And Saber will be our support for now. But now that I have Vergil, I do think I can beat all of Worldlines, which means category, here we come. Okay, well first I need to get a lot of levels on Vergil, and I'm not too sure how to do that, but I know for a fact it's not Worldlines. So yeah, I'll be back. Alright, so it's the next day, super early in the morning actually, so I'm gonna keep this brief before we run into the grind. I did get a few levels on Vergil, but I want to take him to 60 before we do anything difficult. In order to do that, however, I'm gonna be embarking on a grind that I actually started last week, grinding for Yamamoto. So yeah, I'm still tired, so let's just run into the legend stages. Okay, so while I have you here, I want to chat with you about something. I'll commentate on this Worldlines stage, but I also want to introduce you to a growing community called Salmon's Projects. You may have heard of it if you've gone looking for anime Vanguards macros. I was given early access to their brand new all-in-one macro, featuring the latest macro designs for challenges, winter portals, the new raid, and so much more. It goes completely free next week. I know, macros are a touchy subject for a lot of people, but I also know there's plenty of us, yes, my level 290 self included, who get really busy in the middle of intensive grinds. Salmon is there to help you cover that gap. If macros aren't your thing, don't worry. Plenty of members don't even play AV, let alone macro, and just stay because it's a fun place to be. The link to the Discord is in the description. Anyway, as promised, a little tidbit for this stage. Yes, you can do Marshall Island stages with just Dante. The energy drain enemies, the ones that debuff your damage, are very slow. And if you do what I did here, with 2 Dantes in the back and 1 in the front, you can handle the enemies with full damage while taking out just the energy drainers. Also, I replaced early to gain the tiny 3% damage buff from the weather as the wave ticked. Did it help? I don't know. Anyway, see ya. Okay, so as you saw, no matter what I do to Vergil, he's not going to be able to output enough damage in order to take down Boo. However, I do think that we can greatly increase his damage output in literally anything else that doesn't have 1,000,000% regen per second. And that is with the Black Spirit Familiar, which boosts the growth rate of any meter by a certain percentage from 0 to 100%. Anything would be a little more helpful, but hopefully we get a really high roll and it'll compensate for the fact that we don't have a freezer or a stunner. I have tried this before, but now we have Vergil, so maybe that'll make the difference. Yeah, let's hop right into the Cid Raid. Alright, well that's gonna wrap it up for today. I'm actually recording this the day after we did everything. I had a bunch of stuff to do, but I'm just glad that we actually did it. The Monarch is super crazy, but there is something that I have to speak on. Monarch Vergil is incredible, even without a support. However, as you saw, there's just a lot of stuff that we can't do when he's not outputting the maximum amount of his damage. So for that reason, and as a treat to everyone who decided to stay this long, I will be summoning on the Winter Banner to get Fubuki or Amelia. Either one works. I know that goes against the core name of the challenge, but I've had a lot of people say that using the Winter Banner wouldn't count as summoning. And to be fair, even before I thought about using the Winter Banner, I did say we were going to use gems spent to track how many summons, and I've still spent 0 gems. So, sorry if that doesn't quite align with the vision that you had for a no summoning challenge. I do hope you'll still keep watching. I think it's still going to be very fun to try and figure stuff out. I've done a lot of the game without any sort of Winter Banner support, but with the state of the game right now, there are no supports available. Also, there has never been a non-summoning unit that can stop regen, but I've been yapping for way too long. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like, and of course, if you've been enjoying the series so far and you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. We're gonna do this every week until the end of time, I guess. I do hope you'll stick around. Anyway, bye-bye.